Chapter 4. Sandy watched her daughter sleep for a few minutes and then went back downstairs to work on When the Baby Wakes Up. She needed to get a few things of the attic, so she made the climb upstairs. It took a good half hour of work, but soon everything would be ready. Sandy sat in her favorite chair and thought about the coming months. She had to admit, when Violet had first suggested the idea to her, she had wondered if her friend has lost her mind. But looking at how happy Sarah had been while she drank her bottle made Sandy feel better. This plan of hers could work. Sarah seemed to relish the thought of being a baby, and Sandy wanted her daughter to grow up. Maybe a summer as a baby would give her the time she needed to realize that you cannot always go back. Sandy sighed and started to think about what the summer held in store for both of them. The one thing that was certain was that things were never gonna be the same again. Upstairs, Sarah slept to her heart's content. She was having a wonderful dream. In her dream, she was a baby again, sleeping in a crib and enjoying every minute of it. She saw through the bars of the crib as her mother puttered around in her nursery. "Does my baby like to watch mommy work?" her mother asked her. Sarah found herself giggling at the question. The dream was very relaxing, like floating on a cloud. However, it did not last long enough. All too soon, Sarah found herself waking up. She stretched and sat up in her bed, not a crib like she wanted, but a bed. Sarah sat there for a few minutes and wondered what to do. Part of her wanted to throw some clothes on and go find her mother. Part of her wanted to just lay down and sleep some more. Sarah thought for a minute, then made her choice. She was not gonna get any more dressed, but was gonna go find out what her mother was up to. Sarah stood up and went to open the door. After leaving her room, Sarah headed down to the living room and to find her mother. Here mother sat in her favorite chair in deep thought. Sarah coughed to get her mother's attention. "I see we are up from our nap," her mother said as a greeting. "Yep," Sarah replied. "Well, what are you doing down here?" Sandy asked. "I came looking for you," came the answer. "Well, we have two problems then," Sandy stated. "Like I said, if you are gonna be a baby, you must be one full time. That means you do not leave your room until somebody comes and gets you. I know you do not have a real crib, but you do not get out of bed until I get you up." "Understood," Sandy explained. "Yes," Sarah answered. "Also, babies do not walk, they crawl. So I want you to crawl everywhere." "Got it," Sandy stated. "Okay," Sarah said. "Now crawl over here," Sandy said. Sarah dropped to all fours and crawled over to her mother. Sandy reached over and checked her daughter's diaper. Finding it still dry, she then motioned for Sarah to come to the other side of the room. Sarah looked over to where her mother was wanting her to go and was surprised to see a playpen set up. Sarah crawled over to the playpen and was soon climbing in it. Once inside, Sandy spoke again. "This is where I want you to stay while I make dinner." Sarah just shook her head. Sandy left the room and came back with a bottle of juice. "This should keep you till it is dinner time," Sandy said matter of fact. Sarah grabbed the bottle and lay down in the playpen, her only thought being that this just keeps getting better. Sarah looked around the room as she sat in her playpen and smiled. This was starting out to be the best summer ever. Sandy went into the kitchen again to try and figure out how to feed Sarah baby food when she did not have any. She thought for a moment about leaving her daughter and going back to the store, but dismissed the idea. She had to think of Sarah as a baby, and she would never leave a baby unattended. It was then that an idea hit her. Tonight's dinner would be mac and cheese. She could use the blender and blend Sarah's portion to the right consistence. Sandy began to hum to herself as she made dinner. She had not hummed in a few years and was surprised to be doing so now. It just seemed to make sense. She hummed a tune she had not thought about in years. Meanwhile, in the living room, Sarah finished her bottle and began to wonder what to do next. She looked around the playpen for something to look at or do. Finding nothing, she sighed a sigh of boredom. She had to admit she was bored. A few minutes later she felt the need to pee. She almost stood up to go to the bathroom. She forgot for only a second. Still, she found it hard to wet her pants. After about 5 minutes, Sarah finally felt her bladder empty as she peed into her diaper. When she finished, she sat there and closed her eyes. The feeling of a wet diaper was different than she thought it would be. It felt warm and wonderful. The problem was that Sarah did not know what to do. She thought about calling for her mother. She also thought about getting out of the playpen and go looking for her. Sarah was not sure what to do. She was still thinking through her choices when she heard her mother's voice. "Is my baby hungry?" "Yes," Sarah started. "And a little wet too." Sandy looked at her daughter. She actually wet her pants, Sandy thought. No turning back now. Sandy thought through her options before speaking. "Like I said before, you wanted to be a baby and babies wet their pants. They do not care and neither should you. I will change you when I realize that you need to be changed." Sarah just nodded that she understood. Sandy helped Sarah out of her playpen and walked out of room. Sarah crawled after her into the kitchen. Her diaper felt a little heavy. Upon arriving in the kitchen, Sarah was surprised to see a high chair set up. Sandy looked at her daughter. "Shall we see if it still fits?" "Yes," Sarah answered as she climbed into the chair. To both of their surprise and Sarah's delight, she fit. Sandy tied a bib on her daughter and proceeded to feed her the macaroni and cheese. Sarah sat quietly and ate every spoonful. All the while thinking, "My mother is feeding me like a baby. This is so cool." Soon dinner was over and Sandy gave Sarah another bottle to drink while she ate. Sarah sat in her high chair drinking her bottle and feeling a lot better. Soon dinner was over and cleaned up. "So," Sandy said as she removed the tray of the high chair, "let's get you into a dry diaper." With that, she took Sarah by her hand, walked them both upstairs. Chapter 5. Sarah and her mother arrived at her room and Sandy went to work. Sarah went straight to her bed and sat down. Sandy grabbed a diaper and then looked at her diaper. "Not on the bed. Let's change you on the floor," Sandy said. Sarah got down on the floor. Sandy looked at her daughter and smiled. The plan was gonna work and Sarah had no idea how much she was gonna hate being a baby by summer's end. Sandy then bent over her daughter and gave her a pacifier. Watching her suck it just reinforced what Sandy was thinking. Sandy sighed and got right to work. First she removed the wet diaper. Then she sprinkled a bit of baby powder and rubbed it into her Sarah's diaper area. Then she lifted her diaper by her legs and slid another diaper underneath before bringing it up between her legs and tapping it shut. The whole time she was getting changed, Sarah had kept her eyes closed. Sandy wondered what her daughter was thinking. After finishing changing her daughter's diaper, she rolled the wet diaper into a ball and placed it into the trash. She then helped her daughter to her feet. "It is too early for bed. So back to the playpen for you," she told Sarah. Sarah grabbed her stuffed bear and began to crawl toward the living room and her playpen. Once there, she laid down and starting to play with her bear. Sandy sat in her favorite chair and watched her daughter play. She was so cute in some ways, Sandy thought to herself. Sarah meanwhile was thinking about other things. She still could not believe what was happening. Her mother had fed her dinner in a high chair and then had changed her diaper. She had her diaper changed like it was not big deal. Sarah laid down in her playpen, sucking her pacifier and playing with her bear. This was the life that she had always wanted. Her mind went back over the feelings of the past few minutes. She had felt her diaper right before her mother changed her and it did not feel as nice as it did before dinner. Feeling the open air on her rear had been a nice change of pace. She had been surprised by the feeling of the baby powder. It felt wonderful against her skin. Then the fresh diaper felt like home again as her mother had taped it shut. She had felt encased in love one more time. Now she sits in her playpen playing with her bear and loving every minute of it. Sarah smiled and looked at her mother, who smiled back. "Is my little girl happy?" Mom asked matter-of-factly. Sarah just smiled her answer. "Good, cause it's gonna last 3 months." Sandy reminded her. Sarah listened to her mother speak, and the only though was simple this. "Only 3 months, I wish this could go on forever." Sandy stared at her daughter for a moment. It was gonna take 3 months to break her daughter of this ridiculous idea of being a baby. But it would be worth it. After all, she would be starting high school within a year, and she needed to be a big girl. She needed to give up this love of being a baby. Sandy looked at the clock on the wall. "Time for bed," she announced. Sarah crawled up to her mother and the two of them walked up to Sarah's room. Sandy tucked her daughter in. "I'll be right back," she informed her and left the room. Sarah just looked above her bed and smiled. Today had started out so terribly and was ending so wonderfully. It was hard to believe that less than 24 hours ago she had been discovered in a pillowcase of a diaper, and now she was wearing the real thing. Sandy returned and placed a bottle in her daughter's lips. "This should keep you till morning." Sarah took the bottle as her mother left the room with a simple "good night." This had been the best day ever. Chapter 6. Sarah woke up with a strong need to pee. Sitting up in her bed, she almost got out of bed. An internal voice reminded her of the day before. She was supposed to act like a baby. Babies did not use the potty. They just wet their pants. Sarah relaxed, and soon enough she felt her diaper get warm from her pee. The warmth overtook her. This was gonna be another beautiful day. After she felt herself stop peeing, Sarah laid back down on her bed to wait for her mother to come in and get her up for the day. Everything felt wonderful. Sarah looked at the clock on her dresser. 7:05 it read. Her mother would not be in until at least 7:30. That was another 25 minutes away. Sarah shifted her weight. The wet diaper reacted to her every move. Sarah stared at the open box of diapers sitting on her dresser. It would be a simple matter to grab one and change herself. The problem was that if she did that, it would ruin the baby mode she was now enjoying. After all, she thought to herself, babies do not change themselves. So deep in thought about what to do was Sarah that she did not hear her mother enter the room. "Good morning, little one," Sandy spoke. Sarah almost shot out of her skin. "You scared me." "Sorry about that," her mother replied. "It's okay," Sarah said as she felt her heart race a few beats. "Well, let's get you changed and then breakfast," Sandy said plainly. Sarah laid down on the floor as Sandy grabbed another diaper. In a quick minute Sarah was changed and both of them were heading downstairs for breakfast. Soon Sarah was sitting in her high chair being spoon-fed a bowl of oatmeal. The whole while Sarah was being fed, she felt like she was in the best place on earth. This was the life she had always wanted and looked forward to in her dreams. She was looking forward to 3 months of heavenly bliss. Sandy was thinking also. Sandy was wondering how she was gonna keep this up for 3 months. Sure, things were just as Violet had said they were. Everything was just like taking care of a real baby, only bigger. Still, Sandy remembered taking care of a baby, and it was a lot of work and very tiring. Still, when she looked into her daughter's eyes, she knew that this was the best thing to do. Soon breakfast was over and the dishes put away. That was when the question of now what came to both of their minds. Sandy had ideas. But there were things to do. Things that required them to leave the house. She had errands to run, and the problem now was what to do with Sarah. Normally she would just leave her daughter at home and that would be that. But this was not a normal situation. Sandy finally decided to take her daughter with her. "Let's get you dressed for the day," Sandy spoke. Where are we going? Sarah asked with a hint of concern in her voice. That does not matter. Babies don't care what happens to them and neither should you. Came the answer. Soon they were up in Sarah's room and Sand was picking out an outfit for Sarah to put on. In a matter of minutes both women were dressed in jeans and t-shirts and ready for the day. Once they got out to the car, Sandy buckled Sarah into her seat and handed her a pacifier. I want you to suck on this whenever we are in the car so you do not get fussy. When we leave the car I will put it in my pocket in case you get fussy while we are out. Sandy informed her. Sarah gladly took the pacifier. She loved the details that her mother was putting into this. She had even sat on her bed while her mother had packed a backpack with diapers and stuff. Basically it was her diaper bag. After a moment Sandy started the car up and they were off on errands. With each stop Sarah sadly took the pacifier out and gladly put it back in once they returned to the car. Sandy dropped off clothes at the dry cleaners. Mailed a package to her mother. Then headed back to the super Walmart. Once there Sarah once again took out her pacifier and both walked into the store. Sandy grabbed a cart and the two of them started at one end of the store and worked their way to the other end. Into the cart went baby toys, baby food, and a couple of boxes of baby cereal. With each item that Sandy put in the cart Sarah got happier and happier. She was amazed at what her mother was going to do to make her dream come true. Sarah then watched as her mother went over to the diaper aisle and picked up 2 bags of cloth diapers and a few dozen pairs of extra large plastic pants. Sarah looked at her mother and wondered if she was losing her mind. Sarah liked wearing disposable diapers, not cloth. Why are you picking up cloth diapers? She asked. Babies do not care what kind of diaper they wear, came the answer. Sarah looked a little worried until her mother reached into her pocket and flashed her pacifier at her. Are we getting fussy? Sandy asked. For a brief moment Sarah wanted to say yes, but something inside her did not want the world to know she was a baby. She just shook her head no. Sandy smiled and the two of them continued shopping. As they neared the halfway mark of the store, Sarah felt her tummy rumble. She had not thought of this. Thinking through what being a baby meant had not been high on her lists of things when she had said yes to her mother the day before. Mom. Yes, dear. I need to go to the bathroom. That is why you are wearing a diaper. Mom, I need to poop. Like I said, that's why you are wearing diapers. Sarah could not believe it. Her mother was making her poop her pants. Sarah just looked at her mother. Part of her wanted to scream with joy and part of her wanted to scream with horror. After all, she was a baby after all, and babies pooped in their diapers. It was while thinking about this that another cramp hit her. Oh well, she thought and relaxed. Soon she felt herself pooping into her diaper. After she was done she walked over to her mother and let her know what happened. Sandy led Sarah back to the restrooms and both were glad to see the family restroom was not busy. After locking the door, Sandy pulled out Sarah's pacifier to suck on while she changed her diaper. This was the big test. Sandy thought. Now she knew that the next 3 months were gonna be necessary. After all, Sarah was 13 not 2 and needed to be broken of this desire to be a baby. Soon a diaper was changed and both of them were back shopping.